in addressing the immediate need against belonging and exclusion right now is like to not be a bystander when you hear conversations, perhaps with your staff, naming, stopping, engaging in dialogue in that moment. What did you mean by that? Where is this coming from? What it looks like that you would model for your students to do. Thank you so much. And I love the through line of like feeding back into our students and thinking about food as a practice and even just the act of inspecting the cafeteria, being like, what is the experience like for our students here? Eating is such a community-based experience. And so it's really beautiful to know that students are having a little bit of that home experience within the classroom and cafeteria. And well, I wanted to kind of give us a high level dive into the Reimagining Migration framework that was built in collaboration with Veronica Boyes-Muncie and the Project Zero. I want to make sure that I'm getting resources in your hands in the time that we have left. And so a few things that we can think about at a really high level, and I think a lot of these things built off of some of the pieces that Jessica just shared with us, but really thinking about how strengthening relationships and messaging matters, what it means to communicate to your students. I think the food is such a perfect story that they, one, are just valuable members of your community, and that two, like bullying, harassment, exclusion, not acceptable. Like that we are here to learn and uplift and be in proximity and closeness with one another. I think in addressing the immediate need against belonging and exclusion right now is like to not be a bystander when you hear conversations, perhaps with your staff, naming, stopping, engaging in dialogue in that moment. What did you mean by that? Where is this coming from? What it looks like that you would model for your students to do. And then really here want to zoom in on two things, which is reviewing policies and that student pulse check. And so taking a moment to actually review, like, what are the steps that your school has in place for you to do when there is moments of bullying and harassment, to what do you do when you see these things? Like, what are the processes that you've actually taken? What are the scenarios in which you would do one thing versus another? Like, what are the lines? What are the indicators for you? And like, have a plan in place so that way you're not stuck in the moment of being, oh, I witnessed something. What do I do now? Who do I go to? Who can I rely on? Who's in my community? Like, how do I bring this to administration in a way that protects everyone involved? Like, what does that actually look like? And then that third piece of being like the student pulse check. So like, what do you actually know about what's happening in the hallways, in your classrooms, during recess, on the bus? Like, what is actually happening in your student community? And we have a variety of resources on our website of doing these types of audits of the student community building, of student culture audits, of having them be the one who goes through their school and coming up with what they notice and being able to share that with you, being that person, and that being why those relationships are so important. And so again, as we know, that social media and online and all of these spaces, the internet bleeds through, like what is happening in your student spaces and what do you know and how can you build relationships with, again, fellow community members via librarians, guardians, social work staff, like who are the people in your community that you can build a relationship with to make sure that you have an understanding of your school's flow of relationships. Next, building belonging across communities. So I think I already started to discuss this a little bit, and I want to make sure I can get to Ariana on time, but really thinking about how you can engage with community members. I think that story, again, of that food, wanting to bring that soul full, like how can you bring other family members into sharing their stories and bringing them into the school and uplifting and highlighting all of that rich culture? Like how can we think about engaging those community members as a part of our school fabric? And what can that look like to really bring in community throughout all of the different ages? And making sure that that diversity is visible and celebrated. And so we have 4 quick resources. I'm going to leave these up here really quickly. I'm sure there'll be a follow-up where we send these out to all of you. But in here, we just have suggestions for responding to anti-immigrant bullying, some responses to stereotypes, the power of recognizing stereotypes, where they come from, really walking students through the history also of understanding how they're used as tools to separate and divide. And then we also have a piloted AI here for just kind of helping teachers in response to some of these issues that are going up. And wanting to end with our threads, which is a project that is done in collaboration with History CoLab and I Thrive Games. It really allows for these conversations to come to the front and really just ask, like, do you like, this or this or this or this? And there's these little just kind of icebreaker games to put students in conversation with each other, name and notice the places in which they relate, the places in which they don't, the ways in which they could build broader community with one another. And so this is a fantastic opportunity of something we can do immediately just to provide students with an opportunity to connect with each other that is outside just academics. The takeaways being we have to create welcoming and safe environments, making sure that we are evaluating and understanding our bullying policies. I know a lot of us can be mandated in reporting that bullying. What does that process actually look like? Making sure we really know and understanding what we can do to make sure that all of our students are in an environment where they can learn. And then I think the last part here, which I almost didn't even put in because I was like, of course, but was talking to Adam earlier, naming that protecting students is not a partisan issue. It is our responsibility as educators. This is not actually a political conversation when it comes to ending bullying and supporting belonging for each and every student. And so while in this time when there is divisive language, when you do have really, really, politicized conversations, that bullying and belonging that is not partisan, and that making sure that we are in community with each other, making sure that all of our students are safe and protected in our classrooms.